This is another off-the-shelf video featuring Death Ride, Hafid Ridge, an introductory game for the Death Ride series, published by Grognard Simulations Inc., designed by Chris Fasulo. Having about 20 hours break between now and the last video has given me time to think about my first look at this game and system. And in the 20 hours since the last video, or so, 20 hours or so since the last video, my thinking is definitely trending positive concerning what I've seen so far about the system. Now, of course, the important question is why. Why? I think part of it is, and I think an important part of it is this. And this is actually, this goes to a bigger issue. Fasulo here has broken up his rules, and so to an extent the design approach or framework. So he uses the 7 Battlefield operating systems, BOSS. What does that do, though? What that does is No, that's right. Okay. By using a boss approach as opposed to maybe a more traditional, movement, combat, recovery, command and control framework, the result is something good. Now, let me say up front that what I'm trying to get at is there are some very subtle differences in what I'm seeing here that I like. And these subtle differences reflect a design approach that I like. Nothing is, bad over the head, obvious or earth-shattering. Okay, but by breaking down the design into BOSS, you'll notice that the BOSS are maneuver, not movement, which, by the way, in military doctrine, in U.S. military doctrine, movement and maneuver are not the same thing. So it's maneuver, fire support, intelligence, combat service support, mobility and survivability, air defense and command control. You will notice that movement per se is not there. It's not one of them. And you'll see that combat, firing, is not one of them. Direct fire is not one of them. Now, fire support is, if you want to talk about indirect fire. But fire support is actually a lot more than just indirect fire. But the point being that the two key, concepts that come from what I would consider traditional wargame design, movement and combat, are not one of the 7 bosses. This is significant because the other day I was thinking about game design again, and it's funny because firing, like I was thinking about a rule set I was looking over recently. Not unusual at all for the rules, right, to have a rules section on fire, right, firing, fire. And oh yeah, the reason why I was thinking about this is because still I believe the core, and it really is almost an archetype, but the core design building block in war games is the fire. A unit fires at a target unit. And I bring this up because that, when I was thinking about it, really for me, the only, and this has to only do with appropriateness, not right, wrong, good, bad, but appropriate. Really, that model only applies, in my mind, when you're talking about an individual scale, individual, blank counter, individual, well, it's not even a unit, right? An individual soldier, right, fires at an individual soldier target. That's pretty much the only situation where that applies. Everything up from that is something else. It's not a unit, an individual unit firing at an individual target. It's something else. But this firing target construct is so strong that that we basically use it when we're talking about corps fighting on the Eastern Front. Anyways, that's what I was thinking about, and then what's funny about that is that, in the military we don't have a collective task called firing. We just don't. It's not a collective task. And really, when you're talking about combat and battle, you're talking about different layers or levels of collective tasks. Collective tasks can be grouped under the 7 battlefield operating systems or warfighting functions. That makes sense. Again, firing is not a collective task. It's not, firing by itself is not, it's not even important enough to be considered separately. So why are war games so obsessed with this part of the design? Well, it's easy to figure out why, but it's I don't know. It's worth noting, at least on my part. Okay, so the result of this, by using a different model to basically group game activities, right? What it does is it easily allows you to see, the players to see that, right? So maneuver includes fire and overrun attacks, for example, which, by the way, is more analogous to real world. But yeah, it allows you to see there is no separate, fire phase. There's a separate close assault phase, and frankly, I wonder why that's even necessary. But I won't question this design yet at all. All your firing is taking place as a part of maneuver or a part of your operations phase, which again is more. I think that's why I like this. I think this is why it's ringing true. I think this is why I'm enjoying it. Even something as simple as, basic movement and fighting of units across the map, as basic as that is, I think this is why it's resonating so well with me, is because it is all done together as operations. Again, it's a subtle difference, but it works and it's right. Again, there's not a separate movement phase and then fire phase and then whatever else. And that's a traditional model, and that, that doesn't ring true for this scale and scope. And I'm going to emphasize that because that kind of goes back to my core problem with war game design, the misapplication of a design construct from one scale and scope to another. But this gets it right, and that's another reason why I think I'm liking this, I'm enjoying this. This mixed operations phase of maneuver, firing, mobility and survivability, fire support. The reason why I'm enjoying this is because this is appropriate to this scale and scope. Okay, platoon platoon scale, battle, and really lower level battle actions. 330 meter hexes. Is that right? So this scale and scope, this design construct, there's a link that is it rings true. So I mentioned this in the last video. I thought I should return to re-hit this. So on the order of battle chart for the British side, you have the headquarters for the 7th Armor Brigade. And it has that blue band. And then underneath the 7th Armor Brigade, you have your 2nd Royal Tank Regiment, your 6th Royal Tank Regiment. Both of them have green bands. And I was wondering what that was. I thought that was some type of formation thing. But I guess the formation indication are the backgrounds for the unit IDs. So green and blue, I guess, to quickly sort and to see unit attachment. But so here are the headquarters units, but I guess that's not, these bands are different. So there's a headquarters rule that's optional, which again I would play with. The optional rules that the game includes, as a matter of fact, they're summarized, is there's a combat service support rule, there's a command and control rule with headquarters that I'm about to talk about, and then there's placing obstacle markers upside down, and then there's an infantry company that is optional. I don't see why I wouldn't from the start play with all of these optional rules right away from the start. Okay, so headquarters, which again is labeled as an optional rule, but I'll just consider it for my thinking from the start. Headquarters provide linkage needed for sustainment of command and control. So the green band at the battalion level here, the green band in the upper half of the unit shows the number of hexes that may be traced from combat units to this headquarters. Specifically, and I'm going to jump down here. Okay, these are British units. There's different. There's a section for German units and there's a section for British Army units. I see. Where is it? Okay, so I guess combat units must be able to trace a path no more than 7 hexes long to their parent headquarters. So, 2nd Royal Tank Regiment, 1st Platoon Bravo Company, here, no more than 7 hexes to the battalion headquarters. And then Regimental Brigade Headquarters, this is obviously a brigade headquarters, must be able to trace a path no more than 13 hexes long to their parent headquarters. Which we don't really have in this game. We only go up to a brigade, okay. For German units, combat units must be able to trace a path no more than 9 hexes long to their parent headquarters. Okay, so that's longer than the British. 2 hexes more than the British. Battalion headquarters must be able to trace a path no more than 15 hexes to their parent headquarters. Oh. That's interesting. In the German units section, they specify battalion headquarters must be able to trace a path no more than 15 hexes. But the British section almost seems to jump right over the battalion headquarters. So combat unit to parent headquarters. And then they talk about regimental or brigade headquarters, no more than 13 hexes to their parent headquarters, which you don't have in this game. See, the German units, they have combat units to parent headquarters, battalion headquarters to parent headquarters, regimental headquarters to parent headquarters, division brigade headquarters to parent headquarters, corps headquarters to northern map edge. That all makes sense. It's funny that the British... Oh, of course. Okay. All right. I'm throwing myself off. So, okay, I'm just throwing myself off. These are regimental headquarters. It's the 2nd RTR, 6th RTR. Definitely thrown off by the... Okay, I won't even mention that. These are regimental headquarters. Okay, so it's 7 hexes, combat unit to regimental headquarters. Regimental headquarters, 13 hexes to the... the brigade headquarters, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Guess that's what it is. And then I guess it would be unlimited length to the southern map edge. Okay. So anyways, that's what the bands refer to. The bands are referring to the headquarters and the determining being in or out of command control. Generally movement, what we're looking at here in the desert. First of all, movement chart. We're talking really simple terrain types in this game. Okay, clear desert, slope up, slope down, and hill. But we do have foot, truck, and track columns and different costs and penalties. But notice that foot is already 2 in the desert. There is no road movement. There are no roads. No road movement. So the different types here. Here's your foot infantry leg unit with a movement value of 6. Movement factor of 6. So it's moving 3 hexes, covering 8 or 3 hexes for a full move. And by the way, having done a full move here, there are options for firing, and then moving half of your allowance. And you may move half your allowance and then fire with a modifier of -2. And units may always move a minimum of 1 hex. So now we have the green behind the 36 and the green behind the 36 here for the Panzer Grenadiers mounted. So that's truck. The green background behind the movement factor is wheel movement, which is funny because one of the player aids says wheel movement, but the movement chart has a truck column. Why not use just one term? But anyways, so they're paying 4 per desert hex. So that's 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20, and then 24, and then to go into the hill, the hill hex itself is 4, slope up is +4. So actually he would not have enough to go up there. I'm assuming, I haven't checked on this yet, I'm assuming you have hill hexes here. I'm assuming going from desert to hill is going up slope and down slope vice versa. So if that's true, then it's 4 hexes, 4 movement points per clear hex. It's still 4 movement points on the hill, but I assume going from desert to hill is going up slope, so you have to add another 4. So to go from here to this hex is 8, 4 for the hill plus 4 for upslope. And so that would be 38, which would bust his movement allowance. And then you have armor, track. Track pays 2, so the same as foot. So this Panzer unit here has a movement allowance, movement factor of 20. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. He has 8 movement points left. To go into the hill is 3 movement points. To go up slope is +3. So that would be 6. Yeah, that would be 6 to go into the hills with the tanks there. And the Panzer Grenadiers have the same truck movement, same as the AT unit here, the Panzerjäger. And as mentioned before, I think Germans may use Overwatch. So this AT unit could move up to 1/4 of their full movement, but when they're dismounted, they have a movement factor of 0 anyways. But I think during this phase, operations phase, you could put an Overwatch marker on there and have the opportunity to fire during the British player turn. And then you also have reserve, which I like a lot, by the way. However it's done, some type of concept here. But here, maybe these Panzer Grenadiers, they go into reserve. And so units in reserve are allowed to spend all their movement points to move into hexes that are being assaulted by the enemy player. And then you have something called withdrawal movement, which is great. A little, I mean, it's a little, it's not a nuance, but it's a little detail that's nice at this scale. And even given the fact that this is the introductory game, withdrawal movement is so basically when you declare withdrawal movement, you have to move towards your end of the board. So you have to move towards your friendly side of the board, and that you must. But what it does is it provides a -5 die roll modifier against enemy opportunity fire attacks. So as you withdraw towards your friendly side of the board, if you declare a withdrawal movement, it makes it harder for the enemy to get combat results against you. Not only is there a -5 die roll modifier, but you also are going to ignore S1 results. But if you get an S2 or worse, you'll have to halt. So that's nice. Again, a little detail that, without a doubt, in some other games would be pulled out as not, I don't know. So some players might even call it fiddly or whatever, but it's nice and just another option. And this goes back to what I'm liking about this game. Even the small scale scope. The small scope of this game, introductory game. I mean, all the British. I'm going to do a quick count here, quick scan count here. Just a real quick scan count. I'm seeing about 32 British units, and apparently the Germans are outnumbered. So I guess we're talking somewhat less on the German side. So small scope. But what I'm liking here are options in movement and maneuver, options in combat. That's what I'm liking. I think that's what I'm really liking. So I definitely wondered about this before, and I did not have this right at all. So these suppression markers, I noticed that there's a red side, or look like a pink side, but that's supposed to be a red side and a green side. This is a nice little mechanic, again, a nice little detail. So when you first take, so if this British unit takes, let's say, this British unit takes a 1 suppression and S1 result, it goes down on the red side. In the next suppression recovery phase, both players reduce the level of their green mark. So let's say the British had a unit here, and it was already, it was already on a green 3. in the next suppression recovery phase, both players reduce the level of their green markers. So if, move these out of the way, if this unit is not adjacent to an enemy unit, it's going to recover 2 levels. So I think I'm going to take the green 3 off and replace it with a green 1. It recovers 2 suppression levels. And so both players do that. Both players reduce their green markers. And then both players reduce the that might be a bit of a contradiction. Okay, I'm going to go for now by the detailed sequence of play. During the let's start over. Let's say that this is the German recovery phase. In the German recovery phase, the German player reduces the level of green suppression and removes all overwatch markers. Both players turn their red suppression markers over to the green side. So even when the British just took that, flip the red one to the green one. And now let's go back or jump ahead to the British suppression recovery phase. The British player reduces the level of green suppression markers. So now the green 3 would go to a green 1. Oh, and then this one would recover 2. And then both players turn their red suppression markers over to the green side. So if the German unit had received a red 4, it's the British recovery phase. The German player would flip that over to the green 4. So it creates a staged recovery dynamic. So again, what I was talking about options, what I'm liking. So yeah, you have firing. You do have defilating fire, so you might as well try to attack. Might as well try to attack an enemy from multiple angles. You have opportunity fire, which is not different than the traditional, but on top of opportunity fire, you also have defensive fire. So units may perform defensive fire as many times as enemy units move into adjacent hexes during the enemy player's operations phase. So, this tank unit moves here adjacent to the German AT unit here. They use defensive fire. This one moves up, defensive fire, etc., so forth. Then you have assault combat. Then you have counter battery fire. So again, these options I like. And these options are appropriate to this scale and scope. So not surprisingly, to a battle like this, key to the action and key to the German defense are going to be all of these aspects of mobility and survivability, wire, defensive positions or dug in, fortifications and mines. So this means +1 to fire and assault. This is -3 to fire, -2 to assault. This is +2 to fire and assault, and -4 to fire, -3 to assault. Single-sided counters. These modifiers apply to all types of fire combat, regular, opportunity fire, defensive fire, artillery fire. Building and removal of these. I'm sorry, there is no building of additional obstacles, but there is removal. So this has been an off-the-shelf video. Pair of videos for Death Ride, Hafid Ridge, Grindr Simulations Inc.'s introductory game. One of two, I guess, because Halfaya Pass, I guess, would qualify as introductory as well. Hafid Ridge introductory game for the Death Ride series. Like a lot of what I've seen here, and I think probably the number one reason for liking what I've seen is it makes so much sense. I saw nothing glaring that didn't make obvious sense. Not a lot of rules either. I guess if you were to talk through all of the mechanics that are involved in this game, and on top of that, maybe if you were to, show somebody these player aids, you might think that the game involved a whole lot more rules than just really altogether rules. We're talking, is it 15 pages? 15 pages of rules, and not that dense either. So, yeah. Death Ride Hafid Ridge, desert action here. Germans on the defense. In almost entirely armor British force. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is entirely armor. No, almost all armor force attacking. And, clear weather throughout. 13 turns altogether. Should be an interesting play experience.